Welcome to Backwards Incompatible, the video game podcast just like Mom used to make. My name's Chase.
And I'm your host, Garrett.
And I'm Zaid.
It's been a while, guys. What have you been up to lately?
I mostly just staying on top of things, but really it's kind of starting to slow down, and I'm able to take a chill pill from the first 2 months of school this year. So, yeah.
This is your last semester, isn't it?
Yep, and then I'll be graduating. Then I have to take a test in order to actually put that knowledge to use.
And then it'll be official.
You can finally join Zaid and us in the adult working world.
Yay.
I know, I'm still in pre-adult life.
Hey, you're old enough to drink at least.
That's the one advantage. I can drown my sorrows.
Alcoholism.
Hey, kid, I fought in the Middle East. What have you done? Oh, yeah? Well, I'm a podcast host. Oh, sorry, officer. I meant no disrespect.
I'm part of the U.S., and my student loan debt is over $100K.
What about you, Zaid? What's been going on in your neck of the woods?
Galactic war crimes.
Oh, wow. What the fuck is happening over there?
Nah, it's just been a lot of, just mostly work for the most part. Just kind of on that grind, and then... I mean, today, speaking about, when you said, I'm sorry, officer, about the podcast thing, I had a customer today, tell me that I should get, veterans pay or something if I retire because, he sees, it has, a battlefield.
Oh.
It was just a fun joke he made, and it was, he was a veteran as well.
It's so funny to see different battlefields on retail.
I mean, Black Friday. Am I right?
Damn.
Black Friday's rough. That's my first retail job was on a Black Friday.
Where did you work at?
5 Below.
5? Oh, no.
Yeah, you've told me this story.
Yep, that my first ever, week there was Black Friday. I started that Wednesday. And because it's holiday season, though it's not Friday, we're still ridiculously busy. I'm on my 3rd day of working there. I still barely know what I'm doing. I can operate the register okay, but that's about it. And it's just never-ending customers, non-stop. I don't have any crazy stores outside of how ridiculously busy it was, and it was essentially the gauntlets of fire of training. Half the time, I'm just sitting there panicking, not knowing what to do, and there's no one available to help me, because everyone is busy, because it's Black Friday. I had, one customer come in there, buying, Christmas presents or whatever, spent somehow at a 5 Below where, sure, it goes up to, $25 now or whatever. That's besides the point. They spent over $600
oh my God.
on fucking items at 5 Below, and they were pretty much all items from the $1 to $5 section. I was ringing them up for an hour.
Do you remember what kind of items they were?
Mixture of everything, mostly toys, kind of stocking stuff or stuff. There was a lot of candy there too, but it was mostly just cheap, random, just toys from the boys and girls section.
And you trying to keep that in an orderly fashion with the busyness and crowdness of all the people coming in, and you still need to try to keep everything straight so you don't scan or rescan items.
Oh no, because how it's set up is essentially I'm standing there, there's the desk that's in front of me and a scanner, the computer, and then you're on the other side, you hand me the item, I scan it, and there's a bag section right in front of me for just plop it right into a bag. So I just scan, bag. That's what I do. And during that time, they have these special holiday bags. So there's the regular size grocery bags. Then there's a jumbo bag, which is just 4 times the size of a regular grocery bag. But then there's the holiday bag, which is twice the size of that bag. So you could fit a lot in there. And even then, it still was 6 bags of items.
Bro, what the fuck?
It was insane.
That's the kind of person to be well, it is 5 Below.
Yep. I had someone come in and tell me that they thought it was a winter clothing shop.
What?
Because 5 Below. I'm just okay.
I've never worked retail myself, but I did work at a movie theater for a few years.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, it was a early college job of mine for a couple years, and yeah, I really liked it. The coworkers were really fun. It was a really nice work environment. We didn't really have any bad bosses or supervisors, so it was a pretty cushy gig for what it was. But the customers... Yeah, I feel like anyone who's worked in a movie theater can attest to this, but you definitely run into your typical retail adjacent crowd, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like any place where there's a cash register will have that kind of thing. I mean, I work as a pharmacy technician now, but we even have a Black Friday season essentially because of everyone's getting sick now, and also vaccination time.
Those 2 to 3 months of getting vaccinations rung up while also filling in your normal prescriptions, it just doubles your workload during those times.
Yeah, it's a very busy time of year, and I understand why.
Gotta get all that holiday shopping in, people. Consume, consume, consume.
Consume everything. Consumerism.
Some people will argue, well, I'm doing it for other people. I'm buying gifts for the friends and loved ones. And yeah, that's fair. But at the same time, it's like, it's a capitalistic token of appreciation to give to your friends, you know? It's like, I spent this much money on you. That's how much I love you.
Yep.
I remember I was working the vaccinations that we were talking about during I was in school, and I tell you what, I have never been so depressed in my life. It was like I work forever, 6 to 8 hour shifts, but they felt like forever because you do like 20 things and look at the clock and it's like only 5 minutes have passed.
Yeah. I remember you around that time when you were working that job, and I just felt bad for you, man. I felt sorry.
Like the people were great, you know, like coworkers. It was just a lot. Usually not many people were too much, but there were a couple.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of capitalistic corporations that are monopolizing our society, let's talk about the wonderful world of Disney.
Yay! What about Disney, Chase?
Oh, you know, let's just talk about how morally and creatively bankrupt they are in recent years via endlessly rebooting their animated classics into soulless cash grab live action remakes, or the many, not so progressive dealing towards LGBT people. Yay, Disney!
Yay!
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, to be fair, this is a joint effort with Square Enix, so it's not entirely a Disney property.
Yeah, very well known for their Final Fantasy stuff, which, you know, I thought that a blend of Disney and Final Fantasy was pretty good. It was a nice little blend.
Well, that's right, Garrett, because we are diving into Kingdom Hearts 2, which is like, what, the 5th game in the Kingdom Hearts timeline?
No, what are you talking about? It only says 2.
I think it's technically the 5th in timeline, yes.
Even by in order of release, it's still the 3rd one, because Chain of Memories came out before this.
Right. And that's when they kind of kept the story somewhat manageable to follow along.
Right. Anyway, Kingdom Hearts 2, released in Japan on December 22nd, 2005, developed by Square Enix and Disney Interactive Studios, Buena Vista Games at the time, for the PlayStation 2. Directed by Tetsuya Nomura, who, previous to Kingdom Hearts, he was a character designer for Final Fantasy games from 7 onward.
Yeah.
Belts and zippers.
Oh boy. He definitely is a very influential piece, especially with... Okay, here's a little nod to like future things. So in KH3, you know, Verum Rex, he looks like Noctis. He was so salty not being on Final Fantasy 15. Love the pettiness. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say an open secret about the Kingdom Hearts series. It's a very well-known acknowledgement about the series is as it goes on, the Disney side of things is kind of irrelevant to what's actually the main story of the games. And I think starting with this game is where it really does start becoming noticeable. Because in the first game, you had Maleficent and the Council of Disney Villains, and they were going after the 7 Princesses of Heart. That tied directly into the Disney side of things.
Right.
But I feel like from Chain of Memories and this game onward, the Disney stuff is just kind of there mainly for the gameplay element of it, which, don't get me wrong, if it wasn't for that, this game would be like 20 hours shorter, but you can kind of just skip over the Disney worlds. They're not really that pertinent to the main overline story.
Yeah, and also like the Disney feels like it's more just there for like levels instead of like actual story reasons. It's like, it's just there for to be Disney.
Sure, there's Maleficent and Pete in this game. They kind of have their storyline going on in the background, but it's not really that important in the grand scheme of things. Like, I feel like there's 3 storylines throughout this game, and only one of them is actually all that important.
Do tell. I just want to know.
Well, there's the main storyline, which is everything with Sora, Organization XIII, Roxas, Naminé, Kairi, and all that. Then you have the secondary storyline, which is everything with Ansem, Riku. And then you kind of have this third storyline, which is Maleficent and Pete. And that's the one that feels the most irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like, it comes up here and there, but yeah.
It feels more like a comedic relief type situation to me.
Yeah, something lighthearted to kind of keep the attention span.
And even the Riku Mickey storyline is kind of in the wayside for the most part up until the very end, because I feel like that's more explored in the many prequel games to this, because in order to fully understand Kingdom Hearts 2, you first needed to play Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
Which came out on a different console. That's the thing that messes people up. Why did you set it to different consoles so many times?
Right, so Chain of Memories came out in 2004, after the first game, but prior to this game, so it's not really a prequel, it's more of an interquel, on the Game Boy Advance. It was remade in 2008 for full 3D graphics, which is appreciative. You know, that's kind of cool to rebuild the game up in that regard.
And it turned it into a card game.
Yeah.
Yeah, card-based combat, which on paper I thought was cool, but in practice, I don't know, it just didn't really click with me.
I did play it, and it just was not really all that fun to me. It's not a very great game, in my opinion.
So the story of Chain of Memories is it picks up immediately after the first game, where Sora, Donald, and Goofy find themselves at Castle Oblivion, which is like a second base for Organization XIII. This is where they run into Axel, Vexen, Marluxia, and
Larxene. Basically, there's some members here that get killed off that are not in the second.
Right. The main thing that it ends with is a direct setup to Kingdom Hearts 2, where they run into Naminé, who is Kairi's nobody, and don't worry, we'll explain that later. She put Sora, Donald, and Goofy into cryo-sleep for a full year in order for them to regain the memories that they lost upon entering the castle.
Hence the title, Chain of Memories.
You go to sleep now.
So, if you had just gone from Kingdom Hearts 1 to Kingdom Hearts 2, you're gonna be like, wait, why was Sora in that chamber pod? Who's Naminé? Who's Axel?
Right. I guess, like, where do we first pick up?
Well, first things first, let's talk about that opening cinematic, Sanctuary.
Oh, yes.
Now, personally, I'm more of a simple and clean kind of guy myself, but Sanctuary is, I think, just as good. I prefer Simple and Clean more for the song, but I do think the cinematic itself, I prefer Sanctuary.
I prefer Sanctuary, like, overall. Like, Simple and Clean is nice, but that's exactly what it is. It's too simple and too clean. I feel like it follows a safe route, whereas Sanctuary felt like it really expanded on that and tried to branch out. That's why I like it as a musical piece, as well as the cinematic. It just makes you hyped and ready to go into Kingdom Hearts 2 and see what adventure awaits.
Yeah, I will have to agree with you there, Garrett. I mean, I really love Sanctuary. They did really well with the entire cinematic piece. It's fun to watch.
Thank you, Hikaru.
There's a couple moments in the cinematic I really like. First is when Sora's back on the Destiny Islands with Riku and Kairi, and then the world is dissolving around him, but he jumps off the tree into the void, and it's perfectly timed with the music. And then it kind of sort of recaps the ending of the first game at Hollow Bastion, as well as Chain of Memories at Castle Oblivion.
It puts them both together.
And the other shot that I really like is Naminé's drawing of the spiral staircase, and then it transitions into the actual staircase that Sora, Donald, and Goofy are climbing to chase Riku.
You bastard! You took what I was gonna say! You bastard! Like, and not to mention, as Sora's fighting off the Heartless, it just turns into this bridge of music, and you just hear the soul of the guitar just really strumming it in, that this is a hardcore sequence. They really went out.
If we're just talking about the cinematic, Sanctuary is superior, but music-wise, I mean, it's good. I do like Sanctuary, but I just vibe with Simple and Clean a bit more.
That's fair. But I mean, like, Sanctuary is definitely more close to what I would probably listen to in my own time So that's probably one of the reasons why I would choose that over Simple and Clean.
This is getting ahead of ourselves a lot, but I do like how the very ending of this game, the final cutscene, it parallels Simple and Clean with Sora and Riku falling out of the sky back at the Destiny Islands
Wow,
with Kairi
you
on the
You
beach.
jumped way over there.
Let's go from the very beginning to the very end.
I mean, isn't that a Kingdom Hearts thing to do?
That's fair, yeah, they do kind of do that shit.
I'm just jumping a little ahead, but you didn't jump a little. You jumped the gap, bro.
Imagine going from Chain of Memories straight to Kingdom Hearts 3. You just skip over Kingdom Hearts 2.
No game.
I didn't even understand what was going on, and I was just 7.
And Sanctuary ends, much like Simple and Clean, directly leading into the game itself with Roxas appearing.
Yeah, so Roxas is the nobody of Sora, everybody. Spoilers.
But Garrett, what's a nobody?
Well, I'm glad you asked. First off, let's give
And
you
what
some...
do they do?
Well, you see...
They squirm around.
Jason, I'm going to pop your bubble. Alright, where was I? Oh yeah, okay. Let's give you some context. Back in the first game, in Hollow Bastion, Sora sacrifices himself to release the hearts of the princesses. During this, he became a Heartless. When a Heartless happens, a Nobody happens as well, because it's the body they leave behind. And the Nobody is attracted to hearts and actually wants to regain it oneself. And Heartless are just the darkness and rage that are in people's hearts. So, they're kind of two halves of the same person. If somebody kills the Heartless and somebody kills the Nobody, they're released and they come back together into the same person. I totally explained that.
So basically a nobody, think of them as, I guess, an alternate of the original person.
His alter ego.
It's a little odd of a concept, but I think it makes sense enough once it's explained to you.
Yeah, I mean, though it's hard to get that kind of sense from it, like, just from playing through the games, because just how, like, weird they are with explaining shit in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have some notes on the exposition and world building of Kingdom Hearts. I know I'm not the first person to take umbrage with it, but we'll get there when we get there.
It's not the most polished thing.
But yeah, Roxas.
Roxas, a kid from Twilight Town. Oh boy. What do you guys think of Twilight Town as a original world? I like it.
It's a nice area.
It's quiet, it's cozy, it does have that, it really does capture that. Maybe it's just because the story itself plays into it, but the whole vibe of Twilight Town just has that, like, harbor town, end of summer vacation, you know, where you're just going into town, going to shops, just sitting around at a park or something, eating ice cream off of a clock tower with no guardrails.
I don't know why they let anybody up there.
With its one flavor being sea salt.
Sea salt ice cream.
It's the only flavor it has, is being salty.
How many lives have been claimed by that tower?
Roxas does fall off at one point.
Yeah.
How has this not happened sooner? Why would you people be sitting at the ledge of this clock tower?
Could you imagine if you fell off the clock tower and then the credits started rolling?
When you walk away, you don't hear me say.
It's just in the game.
That's how Roxas gets reverse isekai'd. He ends up in the real world.
Roxas has been having these weird thoughts lately.
Yeah, those opening quotes. That's the definition of I'm 14 and this is deep territory.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the little touch of the kids investigating all of these urban legends around town, and they all end up being bogus, or at least they think they're bogus. Really, I think it's the whole simulation breaking down, but...
Yeah. It's kind of cozy feeling.
I took the personal liberty to count the stairs that were in question. So, it is true, they are a different number. It's 15 steps going down, 16 steps going up. I just love that they give you a chance to really discover the world if you want to.
I do appreciate that there's a handful of Final Fantasy characters here as well. You have Vivi from Final Fantasy IX.
Cypher.
Yeah, and you have Setzer from Final Fantasy VI, which is a bit unusual because he's not a Tetsura Nomura character. He wasn't designed by him.
Either way, he kind of fits the bill for kind of the prestigious punk who buys his way through everything.
Well, if you played Final Fantasy VI, you'll know he's a gambler, and And at one point during the fighting tournament, he tells Roxas, contests are a lot like flipping a coin. Did your pal Edgar tell you about that?
And then also with like the idea of like Final Fantasy characters is Final Fantasy 13 wasn't out at this time, was it?
No, I think 11. Final Fantasy 11 had come out, but 10-2 was the more recent release at the time.
Yeah, but I mean like the guy the main guy of that like the other group.
Cypher,
yes. I wanted to say Slifer, but I knew that was wrong.
That was undeniable proof that we totally owned you lamers.
What a quote.
He kind of reminds me of Snow from 13, though I know it's not him.
Yeah, I guess I can see it. It's just the hat.
He has the beanie. He has the coat. It's a very similar design to like Snow. It's like a kid version of Snow.
I just thought he was the kind of kid who listened to way too much Eminem in middle school.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But we also have another cast of characters, originals, in fact. Hayner, Pence, and Olette. What do you guys think of those three? I thought Hayner was a nice leader kind of guy. Olette was kind of like the more sensible one to the group. And Pence was just a gamer.
He was a chill one.
At the end, when they walk into the control room, he's the computer kid. He's like, step aside, everybody. I know how this works.
Yeah, so it's like you have Hayner as like the one who's like, he's the friend that will tell you like what's what and like be upfront with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Olette will be like, they're the one that like you kind of go to talk about things with. And then what was the other one's name? I forgot already.
Pence.
Yeah, Pence. He's the one you just chill with.
I kind of saw them as a parallel to Riku, Sora, and Kairi, but with the addition of Roxas being there.
Yeah, I feel like that might be the point.
But wait, who's Pence?
He was the one with the Dog Street shirt on and the Guile haircut.
No, who's he the parallel to?
I guess Sora.
Sora? Sora's bad with computers, bro.
Yeah, but it's more pronounced personality-wise, though.
Yeah, I guess Pence is kind of the odd one out in this comparison. Like, Olette is the Kairi, obviously, and you can see some...
Roxas is literally the parallel.
Well, Roxas isn't supposed to be there.
Well, he is supposed to be there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Overall, I liked them. Like I said, they do have that close-knit friend group, but in the end of this prologue, it's revealed that none of this is actually happening, and when you run into them in the real world, they're still their normal selves. I feel like they don't really play too big of a role after the prologue. Like, yeah, they show up at the end, and they do kind of hang out with Kairi for a brief minute midway through the game, which I think is really nice. I like how Kairi's going on her own little adventure alongside Sora's and Riku's. Like, the three of them are all going off in their own directions, and Kairi hanging out with these three kids in a cozy little town for a short time. It's nice.
Doesn't Axel just like kind of show him and be like, hey, you're coming with me now?
Yeah, later, I think the fourth day is when we see Axel, and Axel basically is trying to get his friend back.
Yeah, because in order to fully understand Kingdom Hearts 2, you also had to have played Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, which follows Roxas's time with the organization.
Yeah.
Well, that came out 2 years later. That came out in 2009.
But it's a prequel, and I feel like this game, in a weird way, they may have already had the idea for it, because it just feels like this game kind of
assumes you know everything.
The game, like, you know how like most time prequels feel like they're playing off from what they're a prequel of? Where 358 over 2 games feels like it's the one that set it up. Where it feels like 2 is playing off from that game. I feel like that'd be a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
Which is why I say I feel like maybe they already had the idea for 358 when they were making this, because it just feels like it's required in order to play Kingdom Hearts 2 and fully understand the context of it, because it feels like everything with Roxas and Axel is kind of vague, and it feels like you should already know the relationship between these two characters.
It's not just him and Axel, it's anything that has to do with with a lot of what the organization says, and then anything that pretty much has to do with Roxas in general with the organization.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's weird to think about that 358 came out a few years after this game, because it feels like it was already part of the storyline.
They really should have came out with it first, to be honest.
Well, what I think they did is they tried to make they were like, oh shit, we kind of made a mess between Chain of Memories and KH2. We need to make a game right now to put it back. And then that started the spiral.
Well, the whole reason Chain of Memories was even a game is because they wanted to explain why Sora doesn't remember how to do his abilities from the first game to this game, because, it's a new game. You got to start back at level 1. And the director and writers were like, well, that doesn't make sense in the canon, so let's make this whole memory loss story subplot. That's why that game exists.
All right. Well, Roxas to me, I like more than Sora, personally.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I'm not the only one.
So
See, I keep that quiet now because when I was a kid and I told, everyone else, I knew about it, I got bullied for it.
they're just Sora
Like-
simps.
I think Roxas has a lot more, he's a more interesting character. He has a lot more going on, whereas Sora is just kind of the protagonist,
Mm-hmm.
Roxas is so much more well-written, it feels like. He feels like a character, and then you just have Sora who just feels so bland. Like you said, he's just the main character, it feels like.
They actually gave a shit about Roxas.
I wouldn't say Sora's unlikable. I think he's a nice enough person and everything, but...
No, he just said he was bland.
I'm not saying that I don't like him. I love Sora. It's just, he's not as nearly interesting as Roxas. I can't put him above him.
Roxas is just way more defined. He has a much more personal motivation. He has a more intricate backstory. Yeah, Roxas just feels like more of a character, whereas Sora he's the shonen protagonist. He's the happy-go-lucky kid. And that's not to say he's bland or forgettable, Sora. I wouldn't say Sora's bland per se, but he is a typical hero character.
I mean, I will say, I did play this game in a little bit of a correct order almost, where I played the first game, then I played 358 over 2 games, and then Chain of Memories, I know those two are switched, and then I played 2. And it's after playing 358 over 2 games where I developed my preference towards Roxas as a character, because it's I actually felt like he had personality and a lot more just put into him.
And speaking of 358 over 2 days, the whole thing with Shion, that just got to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, I cried during that game.
She's just forgotten at the end. No one remembers her.
Mm-hmm.
It is very tragic, but kind of like putting her in the game and trying to really build a relationship with her. The relationship felt like it could have gone a little bit deeper, more into the brother-sisterly thing they were kind of having.
Also, how old is Axel supposed to be? Because he's hanging out with these 14-year-olds all the time.
Yeah, whenever I do any research on it, it seems like they put him anywhere from 17 to 28.
Yes, the classic anime age.
Yeah, it's just all in there.
Also, fun fact, Axel, voiced by Quentin Flynn, same voice as Raiden from Metal Gear Solid.
Yes, one of our previous episodes.
Funny enough, he's not the only Metal Gear Solid voice actor in this. Simba is voiced by Cam Clark, who also voiced Liquid.
Oh, okay.
Back to the beginning of the prologue, as you kind of go throughout this prologue, you first heard all these musical strumming and instruments, and this is on the last day you're in the prologue. But then as you're running through the real Twilight Town, there's nothing. And I think that nothing and emptiness really shows something is going to basically fill this empty cup and make it implode.
This prologue / tutorial, it does kind of go on a bit longer than I think it should.
Really?
Wasn't it 2 hours long?
It's closer to almost 4 hours if you take your time with it. I just feel like there's a few segments that didn't really have to be there. The whole odd jobs for money thing. I feel like you could have cut that and that would have really trimmed it up.
Mm-hmm. But I wonder if they kind of did it in the sense that they're really trying, because 2 did come out before we had an actual game just about Roxas. So I wonder if it was kind of the idea of trying to build up some kind of character and just story around Roxas a bit more, since we knew nothing of him.
Maybe.
You do grow more attached to these characters, Roxas, Hayner, Pence, and Olette, because you spend this amount of time with them. It does make the ending where Roxas realizes he's a nobody. His final line for the bulk of the game is, "It looks like my summer vacation's finally over," after Sora wakes up.
It's so sad to see it, but right before that, can we talk about that fight, though? Him pulling out 2 Keyblades was hype.
Yeah,
dual wielding. That
It ties in so well well with 358 over 2 days too, which is like so fascinating to me.
It's so weird that 358 came out after this game. It feels like it was always a part of the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you think about it, that means they made a really good prequel to a game. That's how they should feel.
It gave us gender fluid icon Shion.
Yay!
Shield. Can I ask you guys a question? So, Oathkeeper or Oblivion? Which one is your favorite? I personally like Oblivion.
I'd have to go with Oblivion because, Oblivion?
I definitely have to go with Oblivion.
I like the design of Oblivion a lot, especially with the effects that it gives whenever you hit somebody.
Yeah, I love its more gothic style in comparison to Oathkeeper. But I do like Oathkeeper. But to be honest, my favorite Keyblade would have to be Bonds of Flame or something like that, the Axle Keyblade.
Oh, yes.
That's my favorite one when it comes to design.
Yeah, that one's pretty sick.
I'll be honest, I'm that guy. I didn't switch out the default Keyblade. I just kept it throughout the entire game. I did switch the secondary.
Oh, he's that guy.
Hey, in Elden Ring, I never got rid of the starting sword. I just kept upgrading the default sword until it became the Slayer of Gods.
But you can't upgrade in this one, so you were just not using his potential.
The original Keyblade is iconic. You should know, Garrett. It's hanging on your wall.
I know, but even I know perfection when I see it.
I swapped the second one out frequently, but I always kept the Kingdom Key, or whatever the default one's called.
Yeah, it's the Kingdom Key.
Yeah, that is the Kingdom Key.
My favorite would have to be, I kind of like Rumbling Rose. Oh, no. Decisive Pumpkin from Nightmare Before Christmas, the one that looks like a candy cane.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I love it. It's very colorful with its effects, and it's very strong Keyblade.
Since you mentioned Nightmare Before Christmas, we might as well segue into the next topic. What were some of your guys' favorite worlds to travel to? Or, well, let's preface this with a sort of similar question. Top 3 Disney movies, go.
Oh,
Top
shit.
3 Disney movies.
Like, just on the top of my head, I'm not ranking them in any order. Lion King, Mulan, and I don't know what the third would be. It's really hard.
I never thought about, like, my top 3 because, I like Disney, but I've never been a big Disney fan, per se. But I'd have to, I know my favorite is Mulan. Mulan, Aladdin, and, we'll just throw in Hercules. That was a good movie, too. Not an official top 3 for me, that's just what I can think of.
Alright, this is in no particular order. This is just off the top of my head, but I would have to say The Lion King, Atlantis, The Lost Empire.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
And you know what? I'll throw in a recent one, Moana.
Okay.
Moana was solid. I'd give it like an A.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for a lot of Disney movies, of course, but those, I would say, gun to my head, those would be my top 3. Maybe Beauty and the Beast, I'd swap out Atlantis, but that's a, honorable mention for me.
Okay, but then out of all these worlds, which was the most fun? And let's not include Hollow Bastion in this, because I feel like that's a lot of people's favorites, just because a lot happens there.
Well, it's one of the original worlds, and I also think it's meant to be the Final Fantasy representation of this. It is kind of weird, tying back to what I was saying earlier of how, the Disney stuff is kind of not really necessary to the main storyline. The Final Fantasy stuff, I think, is even more shafted, because,
Yeah.
it's only a handful of characters, and they're all just kind of there. Outside of Hollow Bastion, I feel like the Final Fantasy stuff is really extraneous, It's you could cut it out and not much would really change. I think the only Final Fantasy characters that show up outside of Hollow Bastion and Twilight Town is Auron, in the Hercules world. I think he's the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who, I'm gonna be honest, is my favorite of all the characters that show up in here from Final Fantasy.
He's from Final Fantasy X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
10's kind of the blind spot for me.
Auron is really solid. This is my story, and you're not part of it. That line for introductory, delicious.
Just in there fighting Hades.
I will say, I really do like what they have going on with Cloud and Sephiroth in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how Cloud and Tifa have their Advent Children garb get up going on. That's pretty cool, which would have been a very recent release at this time. And also, when you first arrive at Hollow Bastion, or I don't know if it's when you first arrive, but you see Cloud and Aerith having a little reunion, and if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Cloud, how you been? Fine.
I feel like they're kinda setting Cloud, Sephiroth, and Aerith up as like kind of like a parallel to Sora, Kairi, and Riku as more of like a darker version of those characters. Like, this is the path that Sora and Riku could have gone down if they weren't who they were. If Sora lost his optimism and positivity, or if Riku really gave in to the Heartless in the first game. I feel like that's what Cloud and Sephiroth are kind of representing, but I don't know. I feel like the game doesn't really explore that. That's just how I interpreted it.
I think it's a good interpretation.
I do see what you mean there, though. It does kind of feel that way, but could also just be kind of a coincidence type thing. Who knows?
While we're on the subject, I do have a couple notes about Cloud and Sephiroth. First off is Cloud has a really, honestly, kind of badass line during the Battle of Hollow Bastion when him and Leon are surrounded by Heartless. There's like dozens of them, and Cloud's like, it'll be tough if one more shows up.
Yeah, and what, you're fighting too?
Yeah. And then when Cloud finally confronts Sephiroth, there's a shot in the cutscene where they point their swords at each other. And just the sheer difference in length with Sephiroth's sword to Cloud, it is like, that is a girthy boy right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't Sephiroth the dark part in Cloud's heart?
No.
Goofy's saying, well, ain't Sephiroth supposed to be the one who's the dark part of Cloud's heart? That to me sums up Kingdom Hearts as a franchise. There are like 5 things wrong with that line. First off, it's Goofy. Second off, he knows who Sephiroth is. Thirdly, what the fuck is the dark part of Cloud's heart? What does that mean?
Oh, good.
And fourth, it's Goofy. A Goofy line, Goofy saying it. It's one of the best lines. What the fuck are you talking about?
That line to me has always just been like, what's Kingdom Hearts about? That.
Okay, thank you, Goofy.
All right. Well, let's backtrack just a little bit.
Yeah, we were talking about our favorite worlds. I don't think we gave an answer.
No, we never did.
I would say Timeless River.
Yep, that's mine too.
All right. Nightmare Before Christmas.
Solid.
And after that, I would have to say Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I did like Pirates of the Caribbean. It was a nice twist, especially with the kind of like making you use your magic more.
It's also interesting. The pirates, the skeleton pirates, the Black Pearl crew, they're the only non-heartless or husk enemies in the game, I think, outside of boss fights.
Yeah, so literally Sora's just killing people.
Yes.
Murder everyone.
I do like how the Pirates of the Caribbean world doesn't shy away from the PG-13-ness of it. Like, I'm not saying it's super inappropriate or anything. It's just like there's a couple moments in the Pirates world where it's like, oh, they're kind of going a bit more older with this one. Like, they don't shy away from Barbossa's line of pleasurable company. They do just straight up drink wine and rum. Jack says godforsaken at one point, and they don't really gloss over the fact that Barbossa just straight up dies at the end of it. Like, yeah, he comes back at the end of Dead Man's Chest, but still, Barbossa just dies.
Yeah.
Yep. I like that for it. It's PG-13, but to be honest, it's not actually my favorite. I want to say Beast Castle was like my second, especially the way they kind of interconnect the map on the Beast side, at least. That was pretty cool.
I really like the how the ballroom looks in Beast Castle. It's like, it just looks so well done, very accurate to the movie. The first Heartless boss fight in there, it is really surreal is the word I would say. Like, it really makes use of the environment.
He's a Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Although this bothered me in Beast Castle, the little puzzle after you find Luminaire and Cogsworth and Miss Potts and all that, you have to go through the basement lighting up all the lanterns, and Cogsworth is the one handling the wheel that brings the lanterns down, but he struggles because he's so small, and I'm just like, why can't like Donald or Goofy do it? They can do it. They're not doing anything.
They're just like walking around. Oh, Sora, you better go get those lamps before Cogsworth runs out of strength.
Donald and Goofy are just enjoying lemonade on the side.
It was a nice little speedrun activity, I guess. I gotta say, though, the Heartless battles and the boss battles, and as well as the music, is just on point, man. Shan Yu is one of my favorite.
Music in Kingdom Hearts has always been one of the strong points. Even just like the background music for most of the worlds, I don't really get sick of it. Even though it's only one track that keeps playing over and over, I didn't mind it. I think it helps that a lot of them are they are based off of the actual scores from their respective Disney movies. Like Nightmare Before Christmas's theme is This Is Halloween's instrumental. And Pirates of the Caribbean, every time you got into combat, it would play He's a Pirate. You know, the dun 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 dun. And I'm like, you know what? This song, still a banger. I don't care.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, I love it how it goes from the calm music, as I'll call it, to the battle music, like the transition to it whenever it happens. It's so clean every time.
So mine would have to be, first one would be Halloween Town, then Beast Castle, and then let's see, for a third one, The World That Never Was.
Ooh, yeah.
I like that world.
I like the whole cyberpunk city it has going on, and then it has this Death Star-like castle in the center of it, the organization's headquarters.
Yeah, isn't that world like their secondary headquarters?
I think that world was meant to house, like, the Heartless, to basically have Roxas and Shion basically release those hearts. Even though right now it's mostly just shadows, which I don't know if they have hearts, because every time you kill them, like, they just turn into darkness. You don't see a heart go up.
I do think that is kind of a missed opportunity, is every time you kill a Heartless, you see a little heart float off, and Donald or Goofy are like, Sora, stop, you're making them stronger.
You're killing all.
I did like that plot point, to be honest. Kind of like them turning on its head, being like, hey, if you stop all these Heartless from destroying the worlds, you're helping us.
Do we fend off these Heartless and make the organization stronger, giving in to their goals? At the same time, it's like, well, we can't let the Heartless, kill us.
Yeah, in the worlds they inhabit. It's just, I think that was like one of the stronger plot lines in Kingdom Hearts for sure.
Because, like, if you don't destroy them, it's like, of course, they're just gonna kill you, but also you gotta destroy them because if you don't, they're gonna hurt other people as well. Like, a lot of times you're defeating them to save other people.
They're taking her heart, and then they're gonna take my heart. Oh my god! Okay, let's address this elephant in the room. Voice delivery and voice direction of Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you gotta kinda accept, and it's like, I'm just gonna say it. Most of these characters, the voice actors feel like they're reading through their lines for the first time. They just are flipping through the script in the recording booth, and a lot of the deliveries are very awkward and stilted. They don't really match the context of the scene, and there's a lot of awkward pauses between characters, but to be fair, that can be at least partially attributed to its dubbing over from Japanese, so that can't really be helped, but it is weird how a character will say something. There's a 2-second pregnant pause before the next character says something.
Yeah, and also, when you say, like, reading off the first time, it also does, it's not just that it feels like first time, sometimes it feels like they're literally just reading and not acting.
I mean, there are those moments, but let's not deny, there are some moments that are phenomenal. There was a scene, so like, for example, Sora meeting Riku again. That hit me really hard.
Yeah, I find it funny that he reunites with Kairi and she just gets like a little quiet hug and a hey from Sora. And then Sora sees Riku and he just breaks down in an emotional reunion. He's getting tearful eyes and he's like, I searched all over for you. I missed you. And Kairi's
like, I'm right fucking here.
This is the real love story.
I was gonna say, Sora and Riku, they definitely got something going on between them that Kairi and Sora will never have.
The entire time they're fighting over one girl, but then in reality, they should have been just together themselves.
I wrote this down in my notes. At the very end, when Sora and Riku are stranded on that desolate beach and they think this is it, they're trapped there, I'm just like, just hold hands and kiss, guys. Come on, no one's around. Just do it.
Going back a little bit, I want to talk about these forms. So in Kingdom Hearts 2, they added a lot to the combat. and I really appreciate its extensive mechanics, from magic to the combos that you can do, as well as the abilities you can choose, therefore making you stronger in just this hyper lethal machine against Heartless and Organization.
A cool touch is the animations. They feel a lot more professional and refined in comparison to the first game, and that was deliberately meant to show how much Sora has grown into his own fighter, like his own combat style.
Mm-hmm. Bro is floaty.
Very floaty.
I mean, as anyone who's fought Sora in Smash Brothers, do not let him get you in the air. You are dead if he does that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will say there's things called drive forms, and these drive forms are kind of like evolution to Sora's personal abilities, and not to mention some of them give you an extra key. So there are six in total. There's Valor form, which focuses on strength. You get 2 keyblades. There's Wisdom form, which only has 1 keyblade, but has you focus on magic.
It goes pew pew.
Yes, you have a gun.
Sora confronts the organization, and he just pulls out a Glock.
Yeah. The fuck you say?
He pulls out a flintlock pistol he got from Jack Sparrow.
Hold on, let me load this.
I guess I am a little like Jack. Now, Sora, don't let that weapon consume you like the dark part of Cloud's heart.
He's just practicing his Second Amendment rights.
Anyways,
by the way, I really like Sora's new outfit in this game. I think this is his best look in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. He does have that drip.
He has the Supreme outfit on.
Yeah.
Then there's Master Form, which focuses on strength and magic. There's Limit Form, which actually, it's kind of like a nod to the first Kingdom Hearts one, because it has a lot of the moves that you can get with the abilities. And then there's Final Form, which is like he's ascended to godhood, apparently, in Kingdom Hearts. And then there's Anti-Form, where if you use the forms too much, you get this super awesome, super cool dark form to resemble his Heartless, but it also leaves you wide open. So yeah, those are all the forms. What's your guys' favorite?
Call me an edgelord, but anti-form.
I mean, it is a really cool form. Honestly, it would probably be my second favorite. My first favorite being Valor. I really like that form a lot. It's fun to play as, and I mean, since I did play on 358 over 2 days before I played this game, it kind of brings me back to that game a bit, playing as Roxas and closer to the end of the game.
I enjoy that when you level up the forms, you get an ability. Like, you can jump higher after you level up your Valor form to like level 3. It's those things that make it nice.
Useful for grabbing all of those pesky puzzle pieces that you can't quite reach. By the way, putting the puzzles together, I like that. It's satisfying.
That was fun. My favorite form had to be Master. Call me basic, but I don't know. It just always suited my playstyle because the magnet attraction with the aerial finish, it was just perfect for me. But I will say, I never touched Wisdom. Fuck Wisdom.
Yeah, it was probably the least practical of the forms. It's meant to be a magic ranged form, but I just never really used it that much.
I will say Valor was my most used until I get Master. Valor does do a lot. It's so limited into what it can do because you don't have access to magic. And eventually, Sora just gets so overpowered to where the forms, you don't really need to use Valor or Wisdom anymore because the other forms, Master, Limit, and Final, are just so much better.
While we're on the subject of gameplay mechanics, this was in the first game, but let's talk about the summons in this game.
Ooh, yes, the summons. Now, see, I didn't really use the summons. I guess Genie was probably the only one I would actually use. Genie and Chicken Little. Chicken Little was great for crowd control.
I would say Stitch was more useful for crowd control, because Stitch had the blasting attack that he could use and pull out a ukulele, I think, and would charm the Heartless into dancing, so basically stunning them for a while. That was useful.
There's Peter Pan, Genie, Chicken Little, and Stitch.
Yeah, so The odd one out here is Chicken Little. Now I know this game came out the same year Chicken Little came out. They didn't know that it would end up...
One little slip.
I just feel like Chicken Little being here is one of the things that does kind of date this game, because if this came out any later, Chicken Little would not be in this. I feel like Disney has tried their damnedest to bury that movie.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. I mean, to be honest, I like Chicken Little. Chicken Little was pretty fun.
I mean, I would have tolerated summoning him more if it played One Little Slip by the Bare Naked Ladies every time he showed up. That just plays every time you summon him. I'd be like, you know what? I'm not even mad.
Okay, so Peter Pan was like the most viable in terms of if you wanted to survive longer. He was the fun one because he kind of could fly everywhere. But Genie, though, Genie is uber awesome. He literally takes your drive forms and maxes them out to his stage.
I mean, Genie is one of the most OP characters in all of Disney. He can do whatever he wants outside of very specific restrictions.
He literally stopped an entire sandstorm with just a point of his finger.
He rebuilt all of Agrabah after Jafar destroyed it.
He even wanted to put in a highway.
I mean, isn't like his only restriction is the fact that he just can't make people fall in love and he can't kill people?
Yes, the same rules as the Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, so I mean, he can literally do whatever he wants.
He just can't actually stop tyranny.
Isn't that the real message, that no matter how powerful a magical being can be, they can never overcome fascism?
No, it is inevitable.
One little slip.
I mean, say what you want about the organization, but they know how to dress. Xemnas in the final boss, he's got that black and white coat going on, and not gonna lie, I'd wear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty fire on him, not gonna lie.
Also, Xemnas yields 2 red lightsabers, foreshadowing to this game predict Disney owning Star Wars, OMG.
I really did enjoy Xemnas and all the organization members in here. So the big ones we fight are Xemnas, Zaldin, Zigbar, Syax, Luxord, and there was also Axel in the beginning, but that was it. Now, out of all those, which was the most memorable? And for Xemnas, we'll actually leave only the fight with the building, because I know his fight goes off to the end, but I feel like that should be separate from the organization fights.
Well, I feel like Axel and Xemnas are the easy ones. Axel is the quote-unquote good guy of the organization who helps you out throughout the game, and he gets the most character development. And Xemnas is, of course, the leader. He has the whole final boss thing going for him, but I think Zigbar, he was the one with the eye patch, right?
Yeah, shooty.
Yeah, I like him because, A, I'm just a sucker for villains with eye patches.
It's his Metal Gear Solid coming in, guys, don't worry.
A little bit. And also, just his ability, though. I really like his homing, pinpointing missile ability. I just think that's cool.
He can also teleport, literally defy gravity, and do all this other busted shit.
Yeah, also, he goes out like, wouldn't you like to know? When Sora asks him a question.
Oh, bro. Okay, let's talk about his final move. So he makes like a final dash. Not dash, but he gets in the center of the stage, limits it to a small, and says, try dodging this. And literally all kinds of portals of arrows just shoot out, and you gotta keep running in order to avoid being pelted to death.
Who was it that, with the water guitar guy, Demix?
Oh, Demix. I totally forgot about him.
Demix. I'm like, I know you're the villain, you're part of the organization, but I just feel kind of bad for killing him. He's just, like, why are you even a part of this, man? This is not your scene.
Mm-hmm.
People have speculated Demix is, like, behind all this. He's, like, the master of masters and stuff like that.
The master of water puppets?
I guess.
Dance, water, dance. He never had a chance.
I don't know. Demix was kind of easy once you... Okay, so here's the thing. When I was a kid, I didn't know any of the abilities, like how to like apply them to Sora. So I literally had all these abilities that were not applied, and I just didn't know what they were. And so I had base Sora going throughout the game, and Demix was always the stopping point where I had to restart the game to play it again because I was too dumb as a kid to actually put in the abilities.
I just realized this. That's kind of something this game kind of glosses over, killing the organization members. Oh, I know. In universe, it's like, oh no, you're not killing them. You're freeing them. You're returning their hearts. But I'm like, for the Nobodies, that's essentially the same as killing them.
Yeah, they're like, they might be freed, but they're not who they were now. I mean, just kind of like as a nobody, they're not the same person they once were.
Yeah, because apparently they still have the memories.
Sora is ending their existence as an individual. Got it memorized?
Axel. I mean, Axel would have to be the most memorable for me. I mean, it's Axel, come on.
Axel is fun.
I got a bit teary-eyed when he actually died at the end, after defending Sora and everybody, coming in to rescue them from the Dusks. And the last scene of him and Roxas, the flashback to back on the clock tower when they were enjoying the sunset and they're wondering if nobodies like them could ever truly find peace and happiness, and they just fade away. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, that, because of Axel and also how you get Bond of Flame is why it is my favorite Keyblade, not just design, but also just the meaning behind it, where it comes from.
Axel is just the cool older brother we all wish we had.
Yeah.
I will say mine's Zaldin. Zaldin's my big one, just because I'm a sucker for the beard and, like, it's not really a beard. I guess it's more like mutt chops. and in his hair, bro. Like, it's so good, and he wields like 7 lances of wind while also utilizing the wind and is able to walk on the wind, able to just do so many cool things. His voice actor really delivered, I felt, for who Zaldin was.
The thing about the Organization XIII is I like how they actually have understandable motivations. They're not just evil, black and white.
Evil for extra credit.
Yeah, they are the villains of the game, but you understand what they're going for. They want to be real people. It's the Pinocchio story. They are trying and struggling to overcome their own limitations of being nobodies and obtain their own form of happiness with themselves. They want to be their own real people. That's something that Xemnas kind of calls everyone out, the protagonist out at the end when you confront him. He's like, why do you fear darkness? What about people like us who had no choice but to be this way? And yeah, Sora does counter with it with, well, you are attacking and destroying people's worlds. Like, that's kind of a dick move, bro. But I do appreciate the thought being there. Because that's the thing about Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, the execution of its story and themes is a little clunky and awkward. Not just from, like, the voice acting as we talked about earlier, but just from a writing standpoint and an execution standpoint. It's very, like, you got the idea, but they don't really dwell on it too far. And when they do, it's kind of in this, yeah, you're on the right track, but it's not quite hitting it. It hits it well enough, I would say, in key moments. You guys know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, for example, when Goofy dies.
Where were you when Goofy fucking died? I was at Disney World and I said no. And then Mickey Mouse, the first time I played this game, okay, so first of all, I knew Goofy wasn't dead. It's like, it's obvious they're not gonna kill him off. But Mickey clutches his fist, whips out a Keyblade, and is like, they'll pay for this, and then jumps into the battlefield, and I'm like, okay, Mickey's going on a John Wick crusade.
You killed his dog.
They killed his dog.
Goofy dies, comes back as a nobody, says, like, I'll fucking do it again.
Missed opportunity in the series. Who would be the nobodies of Mickey, Donald, and Goofy?
Ooh.
Would Mickey's be Oswald the Lucky Rabbit? Ooh, that'd be cool.
That would be interesting.
That would be really cool. But I think the Nobodies actually reflect their original ones. The reason why Roxas looks different, guys, is because there's a guy named Ventus who's also inside Sora's heart, but we won't jump into that.
Right, because in order to fully understand Kingdom Hearts 2, you need to have also played the 2010 PSP game Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, which answers the eternal question we've all been wondering, How come Mickey didn't have a shirt on in the first game?
Yep, it's quite a doozy. I don't really want to jump into Birth by Sleep. I don't want to jump into too many games unless we have to.
We just do an episode on every game.
Oh God.
Would Goofy's Nobody be Brian Griffin?
I just want Donald Duck's Nobody to be a literal duck.
No, Donald's Nobody is Daffy.
No, Daffy's the Heartless.
Yes.
I will say, though, the drip is real. The drip is real with them black hoods.
Yeah, like, Sora gets so many cool outfits. Sora's Timeless River design, where he's meant to look like an old school rubber hose cartoon character, and I think specifically, he's meant to resemble a character as drawn by a classic manga artist. Apologies if I butcher this name. Osamu Tezuka. He was the artist behind Kimba the White Lion and Astro Boy. He's a very, like, classic old school manga artist. Sora's Timeless River is meant to invoke that, and I think that's a really cool touch right there.
Yeah, I love it. I love that design, and I think that's why we like Timeless River, too, because it really captures how older animation was and really put into a modern game.
There's a reason why I think Timeless River is one of the more favorite worlds of a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans. It's just so unique and memorable.
It's its very own thing.
Yeah, it's black and white. The audio is compressed to be mono and sound of a lower quality in order to mimic old school voice recordings. And it pays tribute to a lot of Mickey Mouse shorts like Steamboat Willie or Gulliver Mickey and all that.
Like, when I played this game originally, like, a while back, it brought me back to, like, my earlier childhood because I'd have, like, a bunch of, like, old cartoons or whatever on, like, a DVD. Old Steamboat Willie cartoons and everything like that as well. That kind of plays back to that for me.
Here's a fun little story. Well, I don't know if fun is the optimal word here, but I actually used to have this weird phobia of old school cartoons, like the 1920s and 30s rubber hose style. When I was a kid, something about that era of animation just really unsettled me. And yeah, I know a lot of people will say, well, a lot of cartoons of that era are definitely on the weird, surreal side. I can see why it would frighten you, but I don't know, something about it. I think when I was very young, like 4, maybe 5 years old, I have a vivid memory of watching an old animated short film. I think it was called, I found it years later, Calico Dragon or something like that.
Calico Dragon?
Yeah, that. I remember something about that just burned into it left such a negative impression on me. Maybe it was the way the animation looked. Maybe it was the weird uncanniness of it all. But for a long time, I think it was that, and as well as very old school Disney or Fleischer cartoons as well in combination. I just could not look at like old school animation without feeling almost nauseous. Like it's something about it would just trigger this very visceral reaction in me for the longest time as a kid.
It makes sense to me. I mean, not to like just cut you off like that, but it makes sense to me that you would have that because I do like look at some of those and I can see how people would get uncomfortable by it. Believe I've heard like there's a lot of people like there's like an actual designated like phobia for this type of thing. I've heard a lot of people having that issue. I think that's why like the game Bendy and the Ink Machine works well as a horror game because a lot of people are scared of that style. It does trigger that.
Well, that's kind of it, though. As I got into my teen years, I definitely wore off about it, you know? Especially, I think it was when Cuphead came out. That's when I just really got kind of over it, I guess, is like playing through Cuphead and just looking at the development history of that game. And I recommend all of you out there kind of look into the production side of Cuphead. It's really fascinating how that game came to be. But from that point onward, I just kind of nowadays, I look at old school animation like this with more of a fascination and respect from a production standpoint.
Yeah.
It's 100 years ago. It's just really, I just find it really cool from a historical sense of how these old cartoons were made and preserved and everything. So nowadays, I'm definitely over that phobia. But yeah, for a long time growing up, I just was scared of...
Hi, welcome to Backwards Compatible Podcast, where we talk about our traumas.
Our phobias.
You want to talk about phobias and trauma? Let's talk about why watching Mufasa die again in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
Really wanted to put salt in the wound.
Also, I'd like to throw in for the previous prompt, my favorite, design was actually the Halloween Town skin. I like that one, it was cool.
When Sora goes to Christmas Town and he's got the black Santa outfit on, he looks like he belongs on the cover to like an emo punk Christmas album. If My Chemical Romance made a Christmas album, Sora's Santa outfit, that would be the art on it.
Yeah.
Also, other favorite, Sora becomes fur.
Yeah.
Just to tie it back into the whole, like, thing with Lion King as a joke.
I like Lion Cub Sora. He's so cute. He's so adorable.
I mean, it is a well-designed.
Uh-huh. Other people thought that too.
I do think it's also cool that Donald and Goofy get changed as well. Donald into a bird. But why is Goofy a tortoise and not just a dog?
Yeah, it's just like, here, just reptile.
Sure, in Atlantica, the Little Mermaid world, they're underwater. It makes sense he'd be a turtle there. But why in the African plains, why is he a tortoise?
Goofy wishes to be turtle.
He likes circles. Circles or turtles.
I guess.
I think it's because because he has his, like, shield thing and, like, turtles and tortoises are sturdy with their shell. I think they're playing with that kind of Defender theme.
That makes sense. I just found it kind of odd that Donald retains his birdness, but not Goofy his canineness.
Mm-hmm. Now that we're on the topic of Donald and Goofy, who is the most viable? Like, who helped you the most in situations? For me, it was Goofy. He always juggled them in the air with his abilities. Donald fucked me over.
Well, Donald can heal you more, and his magic can be more... He has more useful abilities, and I don't dislike Donald. I've never really found Donald annoying. I actually think his voice is kind of adorable, but I'm just biased because I just like Goofy more. Maybe it's because of a Goofy movie and everything, but I just like Goofy more as a character.
Can you imagine him being a single dad in this?
Where's Max? Where's Max during all of this?
He's just chilling.
Where's Sora's mom from the first game during all of this? She called her son down for dinner and never saw him again for like almost 2 years.
They have like one of those AA meetings, but instead of AA, it's just my family member went off to save worlds from darkness.
Like Sora's going on all these adventures, saving the world and everything, and it just cuts back to his mom at Destiny Islands, and she's so distraught. She's handing out missing child posters like, "Have you seen my little boy? I haven't seen him in over a year." Cut to Sora singing Under the Sea in Atlantis.
It's been so long. He was this tall. He ran around everywhere as he went.
And we never really see her again. What happened to his mother? It's so sad.
Well, they do return to Destiny Islands at the very end, so I guess Sora's got some splaining to do.
Did we mention the door to darkness?
Oh, right, that reminds me. The infamous scene with Mickey at Hollow Bastion, you know, the one everyone knows. It's the, "Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?" After, Donald and Goofy are excited to see the king and all, he talks about Ansem and they're confused, and Mickey says, "Wow, looks like I've got some explaining to do." And I was like, yes, please, exposition, for the love of God, explain what is going on in this game.
Right, so, just to kind of explain what Mickey explained, the Ansem that you defeat in the first game is not the real Ansem. He just went around telling everybody else that he was. But really, he's the Heartless to someone who's called Xehanort. Now, this Xehanort that is in universe Terranort, which by the way is Birth by Sleep again, so it's actually his Heartless and his Nobody that are the big threats in Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2.
Right, Xemnas is his Nobody.
Yeah, so what the fuck? If that wasn't confusing enough.
It always struck me as such an unnecessary, like, I wouldn't call it a retcon per se, but it's like such unnecessary additional information that just makes it way more convoluted than it should be.
I mean, I'm gonna say one thing about, like, styles of, like, storytelling like this, and I kind of want it. It's not really style, but, like, if it was, I would enjoy a style like this, where, yes, it's very convoluted, but, like, it's kind of like piecing together a puzzle, and I kind of like that sometimes if it's done well.
Well, it kind of gives me the vibe of, like, a little kid telling you a story about something, and it's like they're changing details, they leave a lot of details out, they misremember things, they gloss over other things. It's charming, and
Yeah.
I would say this about Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, we've talked about how awkward and clumsy the writing and voice acting can be, how the storyline is very convoluted, and
It is so convoluted.
but at the end of the day, Kingdom Hearts, I would say, is the definition of earnest. It's not trying to be subversive. It's not trying to be meta. Yes, it's ambitious, a little too ambitious for its own good at times, but it's telling its story its way, and it doesn't really care how it comes across. Could it be better and more refined? Oh, yes, very much so. I think this entire franchise could do with a lot of trimming the fat and streamlining, but I think that's the charm of Kingdom Hearts. You just kind of roll your eyes and just get immersed in it, you know? It just play along with it, go at its own speed, and like I said before, the core storyline and the key moments, when it needs to hit them, it hits. Kingdom Hearts has a lot of high highs, not just from a story standpoint, but gameplay mixing in with it as well. Like, the gameplay for the most part is solid and functional. Sure, in these early games, they do show their age. They are PS2 games at the end of the day, but apart from that, I think they hold up for the most part well. Stuff like you guys said, of when Sora finally reunites with Riku, or everything with Axel and Roxas, their whole backstory. The final boss fight against Xemnas. I think that's a really cool boss fight from a gameplay and narrative standpoint. Like, when Kingdom Hearts hits, it hits.
I guess we've talked about all of the, like, big parts about Kingdom Hearts. I think it's time we do move on to the final boss fight.
Well, we still have some little stuff we can talk about.
Well, I guess there's magic.
Yeah, I mean, like, we haven't talked about, like, some of our finished boss battles of it.
Or, okay, I need to get this off my chest. Why does Iago have teeth?
Does Iago have teeth?
Yes!
He does.
It bothers me.
I never realized.
Bro, I'm looking up his model right now.
I am too.
Also, rest in peace, Gilbert Gottfried. And also, rest in peace, Sir Christopher Lee, while we're here. And Russi Taylor. And Wayne Allwine.
Iago character model. What the fuck?
Why the fuck does he have teeth? What the fuck is that? Why did I never draw attention to this?
Well, he has teeth in the original version too, like the animated version. Oh my god! how do we not notice this shit?
Here's the thing. I think it's just, like, the fact when I was just being a child and just seeing this, like, mentally is like, I'm just gonna accept this. I'm not gonna think too hard on it. I'm a kid. This is fun fantasy. I don't give a crap.
I think in the actual movie of Aladdin, in 2D animation, it helps make him more expressive and energetic. It helps convey his emotions, and Gilbert Gottfried's performance, I think, really helps sell it. But when you translate it to a 3D model where it's not fully synced up, it's just really noticeable, and it kind of bothers me of, like, why does a bird have human teeth? Also, Sora's pro-monarchy, just want to establish that. When they show up in the Pride Lands and Nala tries to convince them to overthrow Scar, Sora's like, oh, he's your king, that would be meddling. And I'm like, now this is where you draw the line with meddling in other worlds, is dethroning a tyrant?
Yeah.
But then, immediately after that, Sora's like, but if I dethrone the king, that would make me king. So I'm like, yo, Sora, you're the kind of person the French would send to the guillotine, just saying.
Yeah.
You would be one of the people with their heads chopped off.
I guess Santa had it right. Sora's on the naughty list. Santa's going over the naughty list and he's like, 7 years ago, you and your friend Riku said you didn't believe in me. That's pretty naughty.
Mm-hmm.
Santa do be digging up Sora's old tweets.
Even Pete, like, even gets a dress up as a lion. But he looks like a lion bear. It's really weird.
Looked like a Jim Henson character.
Bro still has his face. Just, like, they photoshopped it onto a lion and called it good.
Here's another thing that's always bothered me about this. The organization, why do they conceal their faces in their cloaks for, like, most of the game, instead of just walking around with their faces exposed?
Gotta keep secrecy, bro.
I mean, it's not like they don't have, like, a secret identity that they're trying protect exactly. It's not like they go back to their 9-to-5 job after they're done, like, doing their Organization 13 stuff.
Sora just walks into a 7-Eleven and Zigbars behind the counter.
It's not cheap living in the world that never was.
This is just something that has, like, I've always thought was kind of an odd stylistic choice because, like, they have the character models there. They put the actual organization models in where you can see their identities because otherwise it's just confusing trying to keep track of who's who. You only have their voices to go off of. Yeah, like some, like Xemnas, are very distinct and everything, but it's just kind of weird how, like, for most of the game, the organization are in their fully hooded cloak models, and I'm like, okay, which one is which? Who's who? Who's talking right now?
Especially when they were at Hollow Bastion, bro.
And even during, like, their council meetings, I just feel like it would have been easier to keep track of who these characters are, and they would have more of an impression on you if you actually saw their faces for the entire game.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be able to really get that sense of nothingness behind the cloak.
I get, like, at certain points where they're supposed to be mysterious, then sure, but I mean, outside of that, it's like, eh.
And sure, from an animation standpoint, it saves on time not having to animate their mouths moving, but still, I don't know. It always struck me as a very odd thing to do. One especially, I think it's early on when two of the cloak figures, I think it's Riku and, again, I don't know who the other one is. I think maybe Ansem, where they just turn to each other and they're like, I'm you. No, I'm me. Who's talking right now?
So that was actually Xemnas and Roxas.
Okay, even more confusing. The fact that I didn't know it was them.
So Xemnas in the Kingdom Hearts 1 remix kind of went to see Sora after Sora was turned into a Heartless, and he's like, that's why he's like, I've been to see him. He looks a lot like you. And really? He doesn't look like him at all. Let's be real.
While we're on the subject of appearances, and this is kind of tying back into, well, we're kind of jumping all over the place in terms of topics, but hey, that's just Kingdom Hearts, baby.
We're just following the theme.
In the Mulan world, when they run into Mulan, and she's like, oh, I should tag along with you guys. It'll be easier to blend in if I'm with other guys like you. Ah, yes, other guys. An anthropomorphic magical dog and duck, and a kid who just got back from an anime convention. No one will ever draw suspicions to them.
Never.
They'll figure it out.
That is kind of weird, though, is how in the more, I guess, realistic, quote-unquote, worlds, no one comments on Donald and Goofy being there. Like in Pirates of the Caribbean world, it's just so weird seeing Sora next to these relatively realistic humans. The pirate characters look as close to live action as PS2 can at the time. And then you have Sora, who is just an anime protagonist. So I'm like, is this Uncanny Valley to them? Like, what do they see Sora as? Is this like Mario in New Donk City levels of Uncanny Valley?
I feel like if I saw this in real life, I couldn't help but just stare out of just complete utter, like, awe of, like, what I'm seeing in real life. It's like, what the fuck is this?
Like, imagine seeing an anime human in real life. Not a cosplayer, no, a straight-up anime character in the real world. It would just be so unsettling.
It's like, what the fuck are you? Where'd you come from?
Did you guys ever see Aelita Battle Angel?
No, but I have heard things and I've seen scenes.
It's a realistic human meant to look like an anime character, and it is just unsettling. Like, the eyes do not look right.
Yeah, the big bug eyes.
And again, to say nothing of there being a magical talking dog and duck right there, and no one comments or questions this.
Are you telling me that a dog is not a human? The fuck are you talking about?
Anyway, get up on the Hydra's back!
Great place to talk about reactions. In Kingdom Hearts 2, there was this new battle mechanic they called reactions. Really, you just press triangle when it showed up. If there was triangle there, you press it. Doesn't matter. And some of them were pretty cool. Really helped you in battle. And others, you just don't press triangle at all. Like, for example, one of those is the gambler nobody.
Yeah, you turn into a die.
Yeah, I don't ever really play the game. I just hit them. It just ends it right there.
I like them for the most part. I think they spice up the combat a lot, and I like how most of the Heartless have their own unique reaction things you can do to them. Like during the Battle of Hollow Bastion, when you have to fight 1,000 Heartless, which, by the way, really impressive for PS2 at the time, that all 1,000 enemies are on screen at the same time. I think that's that's really cool.
It definitely gave that sense of battlement. And Rising Sun and Sparkle Ray really help you.
Oh yeah, Sparkle Ray, that's what I was talking about, is pulling down this Heartless, shooting a laser in a full 360 circle of vaporizing everything around you. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, and not to mention, during this fight, you do get to fight alongside the Final Fantasy characters, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, reactions are really a nice addition to, I think, like, a lot of different games, and I feel like a lot of games would benefit from having reactions added to, like, the battles.
Yeah, like God of War does something like that.
I feel like a lot of games that are just, like, hack and slash with no reactions, like, sure, they're fun and all, but after a while they get kind of stale because you're just spamming a button and just going through for the most part.
I guess the counter to them is that there are some times where if you miss a reaction, it just makes the fight a bit harder because you missed your opportunity to deal extra damage or take a Heartless down easier than you otherwise would in just normal straight up combat. Like there were some enemies where I feel like the reaction time was very quick and you missed it just because you didn't notice it in time, and that just made the fight a little extra harder.
Yeah, I also feel like it adds a sense of satisfaction though, it's like you hit the button and it just does that extra bit for you.
I kind of have to disagree with what you said, Chase, because I think it's great that those reactions are sometimes quicker than others, just because it's keep your eye out for them, and if you don't, then you're going to mess up your flow in battle. That's just me, but I understand where you're coming from.
It keeps you on your toes.
I mean, I didn't mind them. Like I said, I think they spice things up just enough. It's just, there were times where I'm like, ooh, I missed a reaction. Oh well.
It just happens. It's so sad. Speaking of reactions and stuff, what about magic?
I mean, it's not too different from the first game. The magic is a nice secondary ability option.
Yeah.
I just spam Thunder and Cure. Those are really the only two I ever fully utilize.
Yeah, I mean, I might use, like, Fire.
Yeah, Fire's good for crowd control.
Yeah, and then that's really all I would use is, like, Fire, Thunder, and then Cure.
You guys didn't use Reflect?
I would always focus on Keyblade combat. Like, the magic was always just more of a ranged reliance kind of thing. I didn't really use it unless an enemy was far enough away.
With melee fighting, there's still magic for that too, and that had to come in the form of Magnet and Reflect. Being able to reflect and attack back on people. I'm glad they had these magics in there, because it's not just a regular schmegular, like, offensive magic, because you can definitely do some shit with, like, fire and stuff like that.
One thing that was interesting with Kingdom Hearts 2 in comparison to the first one is the Little Mermaid world, Atlantica. So in the first game, it's just a normal full-on level.
Yeah.
But in Kingdom Hearts 2, it's instead just a couple little areas, and it's more of like a rhythm game, mini-game collection.
I mean, I enjoy it. It's a nice little, like, break from the pace, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's a nice little breather of a world.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta give props to Haley Joel Osment. Just something about his part in Under the Sea. It works, you know?
Yeah.
Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. He hit that note just right for me, for what it is.
Oh, you know what we haven't talked about? We haven't talked about the gummy ship stuff.
Oh, right. The gummy ship section.
Here's the thing with the gummy ship section. It's like, I find it fun, like, customizing the ship and going through the areas a whole lot. It's simple, it's fun to do, but really...
It's definitely better than the gummy ship in the first game. That just felt very tacked on to me.
Yeah, it's definitely upgrade. It doesn't really feel like it's necessary to the game at all. It's just there.
After you go through the route, you don't have to later, so it's like, you go through them once and you're done.
The only reason to go through them again is, like, completionist stuff.
It just always felt very extraneous, you know? It's like, sure, I guess it's kind of cool that it's here in the sense of it's adding variety to the gameplay, it's just putting more meat on the game's bones, but at the same time, it's like, if it wasn't there, I don't think anyone would be begging for it.
Because it's, like, such just, like, a random thing thrown in, I don't find myself putting in much effort towards, like, customizing or building the gummy ship in any kind of way. I just kind of throw together what works, and there we go.
I just went with the typical blueprints. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time customizing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do kind of like rail shooters and the whole theme park ride sense of it all. It's like you're going on this spectacle, but when you get down to it, it's very basic. You're just holding down the same button and just moving around the screen for the most part. It's not, there's not much to it.
Yeah.
While I do think the gummy ship sections in this game are definite, if they had to be here, I'm glad they at least refined it and made it more enjoyable compared to the first game. It's just kind of there. I don't really have any feelings towards it one way or the other. If they had cut the gummy ship sections out from the first game, I wouldn't have really cried over spilled milk. Just the fact that they're still in here, I'm just like, all right, at least it's better.
Yeah, honestly, to me, if, I noticed that it wasn't there, I'd been just kind of like, okay, cool, now I don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
At least watching all of the hangar doors open before the gummy ship flies out at the start of every mission is kind of cool. Really adds to the intense space action of it all.
Yeah.
Fun arcade shooter.
I mean, wasn't there, a few, boss fights with the gummy ship, though? Some of them had, a boss fight at the end?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, there was one. I think it was on the way to the Hercules world. It's like a big pirate ship in the middle of a void storm or something like that. It's cool.
I mean, it just felt so just there.
I could live without them. They gave you missions after you completed every gate, and really, I wanted to dive into them a little bit, but I couldn't really bring myself back to go play those. The main focus was on Sora, Donald, and Goofy.
In that order.
Yes, in that order.
No one ever says Goofy, Sora, Donald. It just sounds wrong.
My ears, they can't take it.
Sora, Donald, and Goofy. Everyone says it.
The Battle of Hollow Bastion, I think, is a really cool set piece. We talked about it earlier, but I really like how you're going up against this army of Heartless here at the battleground that was the final zone in the last game. Well, almost the final zone. I like how there's so many different, I don't want to say subplots going on, but I like how there's a lot of moving pieces during this section. You have, of course, Sora, Donald, and Goofy fighting their way through the Heartless, teaming up with King Mickey. You have the Final Fantasy characters all fighting their own battles, like Cloud is going after Sephiroth, Leon and Tifa are here doing everything.
I mean, one thing I liked was that one view you get from the tower, and all the army of Heartless surrounding it is when you're just first meet up with Leon and kind of look over that area. I think that's a really cool cinematic shot.
Kind of a missed opportunity. We didn't see Merlin fighting. He could have been shapeshifting into all these animals. He could have turned into, I don't know, a woolly mammoth and tackled all these Heartless. That would have been fun.
Well, when you think about it, there's so many of these characters where it's they could have done so much more to help.
Other than that, I just think it's just a really cool set piece to the game. And like we said earlier, it's where you fight Demyx and defeat him. And I think while you can fight organization members before this in those little side battles, I think it's appropriate if Demyx is the first organization member you take down here.
Mm-hmm. And by those, he's talking about the absent silhouettes, listeners. So they were an additional feature in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix where you could fight the organization members that are dead in Kingdom Hearts 2.
They were fun little challenges.
Yeah, but I like how Zexion is the only one who actually has a different set. He's on Destiny Island, a floating Destiny Island, compared to the others where they're on their Nobody platform. I don't know why that is. Maybe Zexion's just trying to get to Sora's head. Hey, remember your home, kid? I'm gonna kick your ass in your home.
That was undeniable proof that I totally owned you lamers. Oh, here's a couple characters that we can talk about. Let's talk about Pete in this game.
Pete? Okay. I play on critical mode, and Pete is no freaking joke. Because, compared to the other modes, he's a pushover. You can just basically power through his attacks and whatnot. But in critical mode, each of those little crackles, so you're already at a lower health, but you take so much damage. You take probably 15% of your health with each tick that you run into.
I enjoy how he and Maleficent are kind of keeping the Disney side of things a tad relevant in this game. Maleficent's come back. Pete is the only one left of her council, her only loyal henchman, so they're kind of stuck together. And I like at the end that they kind of come in to save Sora and Mickey and all of them. They're like, we'll handle the Heartless, you go after Xemnas. I'm just saying, they should have let Pete say, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. But instead they went with, I'd rather run away.
But yeah, with Pete, I liked all of his just random little appearances. It was just always goofy and fun.
He's the fun little side villain who's not really much of a threat, but yeah.
You notice how he just kind of has a heartless feeling outfit on him?
Yeah, I like his armor design.
It definitely feels like he is with the Heartless because of it.
When you first run into him at Master Yensid's tower early on, Donald and Goofy explain His Majesty banished Pete to another dimension a long time ago. What kind of corporal punishment is that? It's like, you've jaywalked for the last time, Pete. I'm sending you to the Shadow Realm.
He beat him in the Yu-Gi-Oh card duel, let's be real.
He just summoned Exodia and Pete.
Imagine breaking the law and the judge is like, I banish ye to the 5th dimension, and a portal opens up beneath you.
Insanity ensues.
But yeah, I enjoyed Pete's inclusion. I think it's like I said, it's a really cool tie-in to the Disney side of things, so that's fun. But Master Yensid, so this is really cool. The sorcerer from the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and he's the one that taught Mickey magic. So yeah, tying it into Sorcerer's Apprentice right there, that's really cool.
Is Sorcerer's Apprentice or is it Fantasia?
Well, Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think, was a part of Fantasia.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Well, Fantasia was a collection of all these shorts.
Yeah.
I do like how Yensid has this kind of gravitas to him. He is this old Gandalf kind of character, you know? He's the wise wizard. Kind of in high esteem the characters have for him. He is the master of the master.
Yensid is the master of masters.
You look up to this master, right? And then you go to get training and it's like he's not available, so you get trained by his master. Could you imagine that kind of feeling?
Including Yensid, I think, is a really nice little touch that really makes this feel all the more, not epic, but it really does feel like they are pulling from all branches of Disney history here. Zaid, you want to segue us into Winnie the Pooh world? We haven't talked about that yet.
Ah, yes, Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, the 100-acre wood.
I liked that world so much, just as like a fun little place to go to, like, because Winnie Pooh was part of my childhood, especially like going to like pediatrics doctor as a child. A lot of the rooms had like a Winnie the Pooh kind of like paint mural design on it, and so going through that area just brings back so many memories for me.
Yeah, same here. I really enjoyed Winnie the Pooh stuff as a young child, and to me, it's kind of like in that Moomins kind of vein, where it's just so calm and relaxing, and I really like how they translate that into this and in the previous game.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's really nice that there's no combat in the 100 Acres Wood. It's all just little mini games. It's all just talking to the characters. There's no rush. There's no action to it. It's just chill.
Let's be real. What the hell are they hiding in the 100-acre wood? Every time you go there, you get this really blinged out crap.
Imagine if Sora takes a wrong turn and he ends up in the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey version.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So Sora is Christopher Robin, I guess?
No, Sora's like the mob boss and the Godfather. And Winnie the Pooh and all of them are his subordinates.
Now, one thing I will say about the world is that I am happy that they didn't add combat to it, because I just don't feel it could be right for Winnie the Pooh to have a combat thing.
It really does add the sense of reverence to it all, you know? It's like
a sense of innocence as well.
Yeah, it's just kept pure and innocent, like you said, yeah. It's so calmly paced, there's no, like, hurry to it all. You're just taking your time chilling with these little stuffed animals in the woods. And I do like the little dynamic between Sora and Pooh, how they consider each other friends, but this is the way I've always interpreted it. It's very much has that vibe to me of like, you're a teen/adult and you're talking to like a young child, you know, like you're getting down to their level. You're not being sarcastic. You're putting aside all your jadedness, all your adulthood things. And
it's therapeutic.
Yeah, therapeutic.
The Halloween Town, which is my favorite world, but 100 Acre Woods, that is my happy place of the game. There's nothing wrong, it's nice, calm, and you just feel good.
And also, that world made me want to explore and try to find the torn pages, so I would open a lot of chests whenever I would go exploring a little bit. Even though you couldn't really explore too much in a level, you still had to look around corners and stuff if you wanted to get some materials for your crafting.
I honestly felt sad when it came time to like leave the world. It's like, I don't want to go, I just want to stay.
I do think the ending in the first game to the 100 Acre Woods is a lot more melancholic, but this one felt more upbeat, I guess.
I think like that's the thing with like a lot of people. I think Winnie the Pooh gets a lot of respect, as it should, because it has such a special place in so many people's hearts.
What about Magic Kingdom, the Disney world?
It was alright.
Is that like the Disney Castle one or whatever?
Yeah, that's where Mickey, Donald, and all of them are from.
And they got like Minnie there too.
It only had 4 zones.
I don't have much to say about it. It was just there.
Seeing Minnie perform magic on the Heartless, it made me think her and Mickey have like a Link Zelda type of dynamic going on here. As for the design and layout of the castle, I do like how opulent and grand in scale it feels. Like, the ceiling is so tall. The throne room is massive. It takes forever to walk from the door to the actual throne.
I think that might be one of the reasons why I don't really like the area that much, is because it just feels so massive, and so many areas it feels so, like, it takes so long to get anywhere.
It's also pretty cool that it showed up in the first game in the cutscenes, but you didn't actually travel to it, and now you can in this one. I just think that's, a nice use of resources from the first game here. Alright, so, getting to the end a little bit here, let's talk about Ansem the Wise, voiced by Sir Christopher Lee.
Man, I tell you what, the voice acting for both Ansem the Wise and Xemnas is just phenomenal. Want to say they're the strongest voice acted, and really Ansem the Wise? What? Come on.
Okay, Christopher Lee, I will say, the fact that he's even here is just so cool. Getting an actor of his caliber and his legacy into this game, it adds such a sense of gravitas to it. Although, hearing him say sea salt ice cream, to me, it's on par with him saying lollipops.
Yeah.
It's just so impressive that they got him for this, but I'm gonna be honest, he is kind of guilty of doing the whole "this is my first time leading through the lines" kind of vibe. I mean, end of the day, Christopher Lee is Christopher Lee. His performance is still gonna be good regardless. It's just, I don't know, it just felt like he was kind of phoning it in for certain line deliveries. I think he mispronounces Riku's name at one point.
What does he say? I
think he said Rico, like Rico, instead of Riku.
Well, I never really noticed it. All I know is that it's a very beautiful voice for a very stellar character.
Do you think Christopher Lee went up to Tetsuya Nomura and said, "I know what it sounds like when someone gets stabbed in the back"?
I really do appreciate that they kind of like created this character to sort of bridge the gap between Nobody and Sora in the gang, while also using an intrinsic factor such as Mickey, because it's a lot of exposition that they kind of do in the beginning. But really, I do like their cooperation to take down the organization, and as well as the talk between Mickey and Ansem the Wise. Gotta say, it works.
Yeah, I really like the mutual respect that Ansem and Mickey have for each other. Ansem sacrificing himself to atone for basically kickstarting this entire series.
While also blowing up the moon! How do you like that, Batman?
Okay, I gotta mention this. During Xemnas' speech to Kingdom Hearts, it's the cartoon heart, the classic shape and all that, and Xemnas is giving the speech of like, "Give me power to erase my enemies, hearts scarred by rage and envy." If you put this on a Valentine's card, I'd be with it.
Xemnas doesn't really go that edgy though, bro.
I don't know, when he's trying to summon the power of Kingdom Hearts, he's going kinda edgy there. He's going full...
Doesn't he just go like, "Fill me with darkness"?
No, that was Ansem in the first game.
Oh, that was him. Oh, okay, yeah.
Xemnas is more like, "Give me the power to overcome my enemies."
Isn't Kingdom Hearts basically like the god of this universe anyways?
The way I see it is like, it's a collection of just raw magic power put into physical form that Xemnas is trying to master.
It's kind of like, you die, you go there. It's the afterlife, but there is no afterlife.
It's basically a spirit bomb.
You're just in the moon.
And instead, Xemnas turns into a dragon castle ship emperor thing.
So that was kind of weird. I didn't know where this came from, and I didn't even think that was Xemnas. I just thought it was this huge nobody. When it's revealed that it was Xemnas, I gotta say, I was really confused. But the final boss area, that complete and utter nothingness, oh.
And it all ties together with Sora and Riku having finally reunited. They're both fighting the ultimate villain so far against Xemnas. This is what their storylines have been leading up to. it's just so good. And you're fighting in this empty void, but it has all this spiral imagery going on and fighting in the world that never was. It's multi-stages. It's such a climax to all of this. It's such a huge final boss, and I love it. It really is a good final boss fight.
I will say, I do like the nod to the first reaction you actually use, which is reversal. Reversal is basically just having Sora wind through these vines of light and darkness. And not to mention, the fight is really hard. It's nothing to really scoff at. Boss music already has a violin kind of like sympathizing with the tragedy of being a nobody, while also having the piano be the anger that is seen from Xemnas.
Real quick, could we get an F in chat for Axel?
There you go. That's my F.
You guys gotta... They can't see it, guys. You need to see it.
No, we're putting it in.
This is an audio medium.
Discord. No.
And then you get this closing cinematic after defeating Xemnas. Sora and Riku are stranded. They finally, I don't want to say confess their feelings, but I mean, they should have.
Just kiss already.
I'm just saying, when Ansem sacrificed himself and exploded, Sora immediately checked on Riku to make sure he was all right. He didn't care about Kairi, just saying.
Yeah.
And then they think, well, this is it. We're trapped here. And then they finally get pulled back to the Destiny Islands. They reunite with Kairi, Mickey, Donald. They're all there.
Sanctuary's playing. It's beautiful.
Kairi and Sora are flashing between themselves as well as Roxas and Naminé, reminding you that they're always going to be a part of them. And as long as they're together, all four of them will be together. And it's just so good. It's just so heartwarming.
It was so heartwarming to see Sanctuary's music kind of go back, and it's just the vocals, and you see Naminé and Roxas look at each other too, because they have also found their home in a way, and also found each other, and kind of started to get to know one another. And like at first you think like, oh, it's going to be a romance or something between Roxas and Naminé. Well, guess what, guys? In about 10 so years, they completely throw that off the deep end, and they're like, no, it's Riku and Naminé.
Rather infamously, this game ends on kind of a cliffhanger with Riku, Sora, and Kairi getting a message from King Mickey to summon them back to the castle. And we had to wait how many years until Kingdom Hearts 3?
It came out in 2019, and this game came out in like 2006. That's 13 years.
2018 or 19.
I had my mom pre-ordered that when I was like 13 years old, because I'm like, Mom, when it comes out, it's going to be such a great game. I want it. Never came out until after I finished high school. Like, what the fuck?
You should have asked Naminé to put you to sleep.
I guess.
I mean, granted, we got, prequels and spin-offs in that time, but still, it was a very infamous gap between this and Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah. I don't know if a third game would have been the right choice, but more of like just kind of like a remake of the games for like better like story writing and like voice acting or something.
I guess, but they were also hinting at more to the story, so it would be really hard.
I guess.
Right. Well, there is the hidden boss.
Oh yeah, hidden bosses. Let's talk about Sephiroth.
So if you thought Sephiroth in the first game was hard,
Sephiroth.
Ooh boy, Sephiroth in this game, I don't think I ever beat him.
I have.
I watched my cousin beat him, and that was it.
I tell you what, it's like having the feeling of a Dark Souls boss. You just keep on going back until you finally get it. And it's a dance. It is a literal dance. You have to take down the first 5 health bars of him if you just attack and do a finisher once and wait for him to do his swinging ground attack at you. It's insane how you have to do that, and then you just have to listen for his cues to know what attack is coming and what to do.
I remember like being a kid and fighting against Sephiroth. Like, it was my cousin and I taking turns back and forth fighting him, and he's the one that finally actually beat him. I never got close. I got down like 2 or 3 bars, and that was it.
He is nothing to scoff at. Like, if you don't take care of his dark projectiles, they fuck you up. Ugh. And then there was Lingering Will.
Lingering Will, the secret boss to the secret boss.
Now, was Lingering Will in the original version of the game, or was that added in the remix?
That was added in the remix.
That makes more sense, because it ties more into Kingdom Hearts 3.
Mm-hmm. So the Lingering Will, it's a hard boss fight from what I see, and it's nothing to really scoff at.
From what I've heard, the people who have fought against Lingering Will, the people that I know have fought him, say that it's worse than Sephiroth. Where, like, most people's, like, idea to, like, just beat him is mostly just kind of cheese him with the weapon you get from beating Sephiroth.
The weapon, I think it's called Fenrir or something like that. You get negative combo, which is very strong in this game, guys, so don't diss on negative combo. But basically, you go straight to your finishers, and they're meant to stagger opponents.
Yeah, and that's people's main way of beating him, because people can't really beat him any other way most of the time. But I've seen some people just use the Kingdom Key and beat him just normally.
Those guys are way too insane, okay? Don't even attempt those fuckers.
Imagine, like, doing that in critical mode as well, jeez.
Yeah, there's people who do critical mode, no experience runs, and they only use the Kingdom Key. It's insane. They, like, never get hit, and they just know what to do.
Fucking crazy.
Let's talk about the Roxas boss fight, though.
Dude, that Roxas boss fight was really good. I wish it was in the original, because that would have made the fight at least a little bit more enjoyable. Instead, you just got the little cutscene you got once you finish off Roxas, and that's it.
Yeah, and don't you also get Roxas's Keyblade to become one? And I think originally the only game that was in was 358 over 2 days.
I just really like it from a narrative standpoint, how it's finally Roxas and Sora confronting each other. Well, more so Roxas, because Sora doesn't really know Roxas, but yeah, and at the end, he finally admits, like, I'm a nobody, you're the original, but I'm glad you're the original. Mm-hmm. I'm happy to be your nobody, is essentially how it goes.
He's probably like, I'm glad I don't have to deal with this shit.
Roxas's theme is playing on, and it's so melancholic, and I think that's one of the more underrated tracks in this, is Roxas's theme. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not underrated.
I don't think anyone underrated.
Okay, I take that back. But I do think it is deserving of more attention.
I listened to it.
Now, I'm trying to remember exactly how that fight went with the location. Is the location the same location you fight Riku in 358 over 2 days?
It's in the world that never was.
They do meet up, but it's in Sora's heart, like the platform in the beginning of KH1. You know, you're on the princess's heart. Those things are the hearts. Yeah, you just fight in Sora's heart. I tell you what, those light towers really get you. Roxas was a hard fight, especially in crit mode. It sucked when you got caught up with him. If you don't have once more, you're done.
Sora's like, that was a tough fight. He knew all my moves.
I am you.
No, you're you.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that's about everything. I guess we start...
Yeah, I think that's about a good point to put it.
Oh, wait, guys, we forgot the most important part. The Tron world. What about Tron?
I refuse to speak on that world.
Remember the 1982 science fiction classic starring Jeff Bridges and Cindy Morgan, Tron?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
It was alright. I feel like that did bring back the popularity of Tron, though, because everyone's like, what the hell is this?
All right. That's Kingdom Hearts 2, everybody. So, what are our concluding thoughts on it all?
Very strong combat, kind of weird story to kind of get up on, but at least it was the most understandable one.
Sure.
Was it the most understandable one?
Yeah, I want to say it was.
I think Kingdom Hearts 1 is the most understandable.
I mean, it's literally the start. There's no, like, backstory to go to. It's just, that's the game.
Well, in order to fully understand the story of Kingdom Hearts, you needed to have played this web browser MMO game.
That came out way before them. That actually was a lead up to the whole beginning of Kingdom Hearts.
You're supposed to play your shadow puppet on the side of a barn in order to figure out the actual origins of Kingdom Hearts.
Anyway, what about you, Zaid? What are your overall thoughts on Kingdom Hearts 2?
I would say it's a really fun game to play. The story is fun, very, very convoluted, of course, but it's an enjoyable story. Sadly, you have to appreciate it to properly appreciate it. You have to play some other games, but you know, whatever. But I think it's a great game to play if you've at least played the first game. It's worth checking out. It's a good, solid game despite all of its flaws. Honestly, I can't give it too much shit for that.
I'm coming to Kingdom Hearts from a bit of a different perspective from you guys, because you two played it as kids, and I didn't play Kingdom Hearts until a few years ago, so I'm coming at it from a bit of an older perspective. Like, I was an adult, and also this isn't the PS2 era, so that's also something to keep in mind, but yeah, Kingdom Hearts, the story is confusing, it's full of retcons, it's convoluted, the voice acting is very awkward, but at the end of the day, I just like Kingdom Hearts, you know? It's dumb, but it's enjoyable. While it's easy to dunk on Kingdom Hearts for its execution and its presentation, gameplay-wise, it's solid, and it does have those key moments. It really is appealing to that, I guess, shonen anime age, where you're kinda getting too old for Disney, but you're not quite done with it. You're not ready to let go of that childhoodness yet. And I think Kingdom Hearts does a great job at striking at that age range. It doesn't necessarily shy away from some of the darker, more emotional stuff. It doesn't really dwell into them or explore them that deeply, don't get me wrong, but they're there. It has those moments. Characters die, characters muse over their place in the world, their emotions, their feelings, and roll your eyes and go with it. It works. It works on me. I can just enjoy this. Some of the moments get to me. They work. I think they are solid games, and they maintain their legacy and their popularity for a reason.
Wow, that went on for a while.
Yeah.
You guys are bigger fans than I am. I thought you guys would talk more about your feelings.
I mean, that's fair, but I mean...
You just make everything like this huge...
I don't write a novel from what to say.
You went on for a long time. That was like a minute and a half, bro.
I guess I just have a lot to say, and I want to be sure I get it out there before I miss the chance. Before we head out of here, I want to do something a little different to end this episode. So, going forward, I kind of want to end our episodes on a fun high note, you know? So, we are introducing a new little gimmick to end episodes off, where we are going to roll a 6-sided die. Maybe we could bump that up to a D20 if we think of more ideas, but each number of this die represents a little minigame or a topic of conversation that we can do. Alright, so, starting things off, do either of you have a 6-sided die on your hands right now?
I have one, like, right here, actually. I have my dice, like, right next to my desk. Alright, ready? I'm rolling the die. We got a 6.
6. 6 is recommendation. All right. So each of us is going to recommend something. It could be anything. It could be a movie, a show, a book, a music album, anything that we've just been into lately and we want to share it with the world. So Zaid, how about you go first?
Oh, right. Well, you know what? I will have to recommend, simply Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, the three of us have been playing it a lot lately in our spare time together. I mean, whenever we have the chance, and we've been having a great time playing it, and honestly, I can't recommend a game more than that right now because of how fun it is, especially if you got like a good group of friends and you all are into D&D. Memories you'll have of whatever shenanigans you get up to with your friends. I mean, the headcanons you can come up with your own characters and other characters like we have. It's an amazing time, and I think it deserves everyone to check it out. Wendell.
What about you, Garrett? What would you recommend?
Well, there's this new TV series that's on HBO Max. It's called Scavenger's Reign.
Ooh, yes. I've been watching that.
I can't recommend enough of it. It's really a great like world building series, as well as kind of the survivor aspect, really just learning about the mysteries of this new world. This is a very charming world where these people have crashed in, and you kind of follow them on their journey to either discovering beauties or facing harsh realities.
Yeah, it's almost like a alien nature documentary.
Alright, and what was this called again?
Scavenger's Reign. So, like, it's on HBO Max. I think you might be able to see the first episode to check out if you don't have HBO.
Alright, anyway, now it's your turn, Chase, to be put onto the spotlight.
Alright, well, I just finished up earlier today, matter of fact, Lies of P, the Pinocchio Bloodborne game. I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. I have some personal nitpicks with it. There's a couple quality of life issues in it that were not hindrances, but they were kind of annoying. Like, every time you swing your arm against a wall, your character will, like, boink off the side of it, and you would just kind of stand there for a second, so it was annoying. And I also felt like some of the enemies were very aggressive, like, they do not stop attacking you. Other than that, it is very solid. If you are a fan of FromSoft, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and all that, and especially Bloodborne, you would really like this game. It is like 95% of the way there to just being a FromSoft game. It is like so close to it. It's just a good game. Lies of P. If you're on the fence about it and you're a Dark Souls Bloodborne fan, highly recommend it. So I think that's it. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate having you as our dear audience. If you'd like to get into contact with us, then you can email us at backwardscompatiblepod@gmail.com, or you could leave us a review on your podcast listening platform of choice. The choice is yours.
It's always yours.
We don't ever have a choice.
And we'll see you guys again next time. But in the meantime, I was Chase.
And I'm Zane.
I think I'm Garrett.
Who are you? How'd you get in this call?
Timeless River. How old is Mickey supposed to be?
They are gods and they are limited due to their mortal recoils.
They're just gods.